Hi, everybody. This is the Bark Night Podcast. I am your host, Patrick.
And I'm Dan.
And today we are on episode 29, our Valentine's Day double feature episode. So for this episode, we have two movies for you this week. We've got Hard Eyes, the recent movie that landed at theaters this weekend.
Yep.
And we have My Bloody Valentine from 1981.
The OG.
Yep. So we're going to start with the Hard Eyes, then we're going to move into My Bloody Valentine, and then we're going to talk about a couple other Valentine's Day themed horror movies that we've seen over the years, drop into some news, drop into some physical media showcase, and then get the hell out of here. So without further ado, let's get it started with Hard Eyes here.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the plot for this movie, for anybody who's not aware, and we are going to be keeping it spoiler-free here. We may have a section towards the end here if we want to talk about things like the killers in the movie or anything like that, where we drop into that, but we'll see where the conversations go.
Right.
So the first thing here is the plot. So the plot of this movie is, for the past several years, the Hard Eyes killer has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe.
That's the tagline.
And so basically, that's the summary of the movie, but the bulk of the movie follows around our titular couple here. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple that it features, and more or less the entire movie is them being chased after you get a couple token kills out of the way.
And the scene establishing them and how they have a connection at the coffee shop, as you do in most movies, especially rom-coms.
Yep. And so this movie's directed by Josh Ruben, who also directed Werewolves Within, that Dan and I have both seen. I don't know if you knew that going into this, Dan.
I did, yeah. I wrote a note down about that. Yeah. So I really liked Werewolves Within, and I can really see the same kind of comedy coming through in this movie as well, as there was in that one.
I can as well. Yeah, it's got like that similar vibe of there being a killer on the loose, killing people, and there being sort of a couple with they're much more of a couple in this than in the two in Werewolves Within, and that they're just two people with a lot of chemistry.
Right.
But yeah. So I thought it was interesting that those two movies kind of parallel each other a little bit.
Yeah, because they're not really a couple in this one either. They just met. They're trying to figure it out.
They do say that many times.
Many times.
Not even a couple.
Which is just fun, the way they play on it. Which is the strength of the movie. Is I was going to bring up the cast. I thought the two main actors did a great job.
Yep, yes they did. They really did. So we have Olivia Holt as your main final girl here. She is known for being in Cloak and Dagger and Runaways, the Marvel television shows, as well as Totally Killer.
Right.
Of those three, I've only seen Runaways, and I don't remember her in it. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about that show.
So I think she was Dagger in the Cloak and Dagger show that I don't know if anyone's seen. I've never heard of anyone mention it before, really. And so she was Dagger in that, and in the last season of Runaways. Cloak and Dagger show up, so that's why she's in the Runaways too, because they just show up in the last season of that show.
Gotcha. Did you watch Runaways?
I did, until the last season.
So
I didn't see them.
You didn't see the last season?
No.
Huh.
I enjoyed what I watched. I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah.
But Totally Killer, you haven't seen that yet?
No, I haven't.
It's good. You need to watch that one. Time travel kind of slasher movie.
Yeah, I know exactly what it is. I've planned on watching it. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, she plays the mom when the lead character in that movie goes back in time. It's her mom in high school mean girl phase. So she's really good in that too.
Kind of reminds me of like Hot Tub Time Machine with a killer, right?
Right. Yeah, Back to the Future with a killer. Well, I guess Biff kind of killed someone, didn't he? But that doesn't matter.
Yeah, so Olivia Holt, main star of this movie. Opposite her, Mason Gooding. Mm-hmm. We've talked about him in damn near every episode for like the last month.
He keeps coming up. Like. He just keeps popping up. And I was looking at his IMDb page a little bit, and did you ever see the movie Fall? Came out a few years back.
I didn't. You had told me I should see that, and I
Yeah,
plan on seeing it. He's in that too?
he's in that. Yeah, I forgot he was in that. He doesn't have a big role in that, but
Yeah.
it's a noticeable part. He's important to the story, but I honestly forgot it was him.
So he's in that, but he's most notable for being in Scream 5 and 6.
Right. Those are his big roles
In
right
the
now.
upcoming Scream 7.
That's true.
He's very good in those. I would go out on a limb here, though, and say he's even better in this than he was in those.
Oh, he's charming as all get out in this.
He's unbelievably charming in this.
Mm-hmm.
He is like I don't know, just like his charisma in this movie is just off the charts.
Right.
And like you're immediately like just engrossed in it.
You're like, I like this guy. I want this guy to succeed. You know.
Yeah, exactly. You're rooting for him the entire time. So yeah, he's really good at this, and it doesn't have like a big cast compared to like the Scream movies where you've got a ton of other people, but it does also have Devon Sawa.
Devon Sawa, yep.
Great to see him in a movie.
Right.
He's in sort of like a little bit of a
Renaissance?
a renaissance right now, a little bit of one. He was also in Hacks. I don't know if you've seen that. It's an HBO show. Very funny. It's Gene Smart is in it with a couple other people, but it's a very funny show.
And he was also in the Child's Play TV show that came out on USA Network, I think. Maybe got a chance for the Sci-Fi. I think it's been on both channels. But he's in the first season of that as well.
I have not seen that. Have you?
I have watched the first season and a half. I've liked it. It's not my favorite thing, but I like it.
Yeah, and that's notable because it's made by the original creator of those movies.
Right, Don Mancini, which just comes off my head because why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, Devon Sawa, famous for in the horror landscape for, of course, Final Destination is probably his biggest movie in that. He was the human version of Casper in Casper way back in the day.
Yeah.
Idle Hands, you know, he's been around for a long time, and horror is not something he's afraid of doing, obviously.
Yeah, and while he was doing the touring for this movie, he was asked about a few of those. He was asked about Final Destination Bloodlines because they were basically asking if he was going to show up in it. I didn't know, but it came up during the touring for this when somebody was asking about him. This upcoming movie, Bloodlines, is apparently a prequel to the original. It's not a sequel to all of them.
Didn't they just... The fifth one was a surprise prequel.
Yeah.
That movie just seems worse and worse the more I hear about it. I want to be hyped, but it just doesn't seem possible to be good.
Yeah, so I was surprised about that, and so he said he's not in it. He's good. Like, no, I'm not in that.
I hope it's good.
Also,
I want to make it clear. I hope Final Destination's Bloodlines is good. I just don't see any reason why it would be yet.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's not going to be, but I will see it. You know, one thing to be said about it is Tony Todd. It is one of his
last role, right?
One of his, if not his final film role. Yeah. So he passed away last year, and he had already filmed this. So we'll see. He was in all of those except the last one, which even he was like, yeah. He's like, this is a little excessive. But Devon Sawa was also asked about Idle Hands while he was doing the press for this movie, and they're doing a remake of that with
Finn Wolfhard.
Yes, and he was like, I'm really pumped about that. He said that he's really happy for them. He was like, this is a strange movie to remake, but he was really positive about it. It seemed like.
Well, that's good. I mean, that movie, it kind of screams for a remake, that one. It's very much of the time. Like the late 90s humor in that kind of could be updated for sure.
Yeah. And then also known for SLC Punk. Have you seen that one? Not horror, but it's very good. He's in that with Matthew Lillard is in that.
Is he?
It's a very, very good movie. I highly recommend it. So yeah, and then our last star here is Jordana Brewster, who is known for mainly the Fast and the Furious movies, but she was also in The Faculty and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the Beginning, which was a prequel to the remake that came out. The first remake had Jessica Biel, and this was designed as a prequel to that. Did you see that one?
I did. I did. I didn't hate it at the time. I haven't watched it since. I watched it in the theater, I think, when it came out, and I haven't seen it since. So my memories of it is not great. I remember how it turned out for her in that, unfortunately, but you know, yeah, I didn't hate it. I just thought it was all right. It was weird that
Yeah.
they did a prequel to the remake instead of like the OG movie, but at that time they were probably trying to franchise it.
Yeah, and I mean, by and large, they did. And, I do like the remake, and I do like the
Hmm.
prequel to the remake. It is so bizarre. I've said
Yeah,
this on this podcast many times, but I've never seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I've seen almost every sequel, and I've seen both the remake
that
and the
is really
prequel
weird.
to the remake. I know, like, at this point, I need to just do an episode on it.
Right. I mean, we all have blind spots. We all miss things every now and then,
Exactly.
but yeah, like I've never seen Blade Runner, and people give me crap about that.
We're going to watch Blade Runner when you come visit.
Yeah,
We have to.
and we'll watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre maybe.
Sounds good. All right, so yeah, Jordana Brewster, known for those. Great to see her in a different movie too. And so yeah, box office. This has a budget of 18 million,
Okay, I didn't couldn't.
and
Good,
it made 8.5 million this weekend. I
good.
couldn't find any data for the international box office, so this might have only been released in the U.S.
I looked at Box Office Mojo earlier, and they didn't have anything on there for international either. I don't know if they just didn't have it reported yet. Would it just be in Monday? But I didn't see anything on that either.
Yeah, weird, but they might have just released it in the U.S. It's either one of the two. But yeah, so next up we have our reviews. So IMDb has this at a 6.7 out of 10,
It's pretty
and
good.
Rotten Tomatoes has it's not bad. Rotten Tomatoes has critics at 81, audience at 79, and I thought that was interesting because so many movies
Have such a wide
are
gap.
yeah, there's usually a wide gap right there. And so I've been sort of just like taking note mentally whenever I see a movie that is like sort of in unison. And what I checked this over the weekend and it was at 80%. So it actually went up to 81 for the critics. So it was even closer initially. But what I've seen on Threads, everybody on Threads that's been talking about has been largely positive about the whole experience. And I think that it's interesting that it seems to be better on Rotten Tomatoes than IMDb.
It is a bit surprising.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because of the difference in users that use the two. Because I think more younger users gravitate towards Rotten Tomatoes, where for IMDb you get a lot of people in our age and up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think IMDb's age of users probably trends upwards.
I think you're right, and I can't argue with that. Yeah. So that's not surprising. I kind of try to avoid looking at Rotten Tomatoes before we went and watched the movie, but I saw like the initial like first few reviews had it in 86. I'm like, oh, that's a great sign to see before you go see a movie.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, let's jump into our reviews of this and just get right into talking about the movie. So I want to preface this for me is that I just got out of this movie less than an hour ago.
oh dang.
I meant to go see it over the weekend, but Sarah's sister and her husband ended up coming and spending the weekend here, and it wasn't really something we had planned. So
It's
that
all right.
kind of put my plans into
Spin.
flux.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then today I was like, all right, well, I'll just go this afternoon. There was a 3:40 showing, and yeah, so I it's all very, very fresh in my mind right now, having gone and seen it. So I loved it, honestly. I was really happy with it. I was having a good time, and I'm glad I did because honestly I wasn't really feeling like going to the movies either.
Hmm.
It's a Monday and I'm like like okay,
Yeah.
I guess I gotta go see this thing because I put it on the schedule.
It felt like work, right? A little bit.
It did feel like work.
Yeah.
And so I'm like driving there and I'm like I'm probably not going to enjoy this just because like I'm really not in the mood. I didn't even eat popcorn when I went there, which I always eat popcorn. But
Ooh.
like I had already had lunch and everything today, so cause I'm going on in an afternoon. But the whole vibe of this movie I really liked, and I almost remember what I had read that I prefaced last week for us about this being a comedy with horror elements. It's really like a romantic comedy.
It
In
is.
all honesty,
Yeah.
and it didn't lean into it. It's very silly,
Mm-hmm.
but it is very violent.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have just like the way like I had read that it was like, oh, it's got a couple horror moments in it. Like no, like dozens of people get killed in this.
Dozens, yeah, and some of them in very gruesome ways. Yeah,
off, like yeah.
yeah,
But like the linchpin of this movie really is Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding.
Right.
They've got so much chemistry, and they are just riding the waves of it through this whole movie, and you really are rooting for them the entire time. But they're great.
They really are. I completely agree with you that I had a couple of points I wrote down to just touch over with you. I thought the opening scene in the vineyard was fantastic. I had a great time with that. Like I kind of wanted to just like, sometimes you see a movie and you just like restart it to watch the beginning again because you liked it. I wish that was an option for this. I thought that opening scene was phenomenal and really set the pace for the rest of it.
Yep.
And then I also put the killer's design. I really liked the weaponry he uses. He has a little crossbow bolt gun and like a machete.
Cupid's bolts.
Yeah. And he's got a machete with like a knuckle duster spikes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked his design. I thought it was, you don't want to use the word iconic this early, but it could be,
So let me ask you this. So I saw an interview with the director where he was talking about one of his inspirations for this movie and where he decided to get like the utility belt. And he said one of his big inspirations for the movie was Jason Lives. Have you seen Jason Lives?
I'm sure I have, but I'm trying to get the reference.
Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. Does he have like a utility belt, or does he just use multiple different weapons in that movie?
I think that's the one with the. Is that the one that doesn't have actually Jason in it, or is that the one that became? No. I'm thinking of the one that was before it. Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry, I was thinking the one with the copycat killer, the Roy Burns one, but no, I don't remember. Is that the one he has like a? Yeah, I guess there's like a weed thresher kill and things like that. What's that called? That's not a weed thresher. What is it called?
I don't know.
Things you use to trim around the house.
Like a weed whacker?
Weed whacker. Thank you. A weed whacker killing that one, I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
So yeah, maybe. Okay, I can kind of see that.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so that was one of his main inspirations for this movie. Is he wanted to do like his own version of that. I do really like the mask in it. The scene where he turns on the hard eyes and is like looking at everybody in
night vision.
That was really cool. Yeah, it does have a really unique sense of humor to it. Like everything's played pretty lighthearted, but it also, you are worried about your main couple for the whole movie, right? You are worried that something is going to happen to them because it is that type of movie too, where you almost think that at any point nobody is safe in this. It's not a franchise movie yet.
Not yet.
And you just have no idea because, I mean, in all honesty, you don't know that much going into it, I think they played it pretty safe on knowing what the cast is and everything and showing too much in the trailers. They didn't do too much of that. The only kill they showed in the trailer is the one of the couple in the van.
At the drive-in?
Yeah, and I had kind of forgotten about that by the time it happens. Right as it's about to happen, I was like, oh, this is that one. Yeah. Where they lift her up and, like, the camera, like, zooms through her head.
Yeah.
But, like, it didn't ruin that at all for me,
It's still brutal, and it still gets the job done. But, like, even, like I said, the opening scene, like, there's not much of that at all in the trailer. I think there's, like, the one scene where the girl's running through the vineyard itself. They show that, but nothing from that.
They kind of flashed the killer when he's just about to kill the photographer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't ruined for me either, So I think the trailer played really well with it. I think it's very fun. I think that's the whole thing with it is it's just a whole lot of fun. It doesn't have that vibe that like the Scream movies have, where it is brutal. You know what I mean? Where sometimes somebody dies and you feel like your heart's just been torn out. Speaking of heart torn out, that just reminded me. Hard Eyes here with My Bloody Valentine. They had a scene where the heart was carved out. That's taken straight from My Bloody Valentine.
Straight from it, yeah.
And actually, the whole premise of the movie, where in this the Hard Eyes killer has been This is the third year, and that kind of reminded me of My Bloody Valentine, where the killer in that has been like it's happened like decades before.
Yeah, an existing, well-known killer, movie monster kind
Right.
of thing. Yeah.
So in that one, it's almost become like a legend, but in this one, it's still fresh in everybody's mind. So it's his own unique take on a very similar idea.
Right. And in the movie, the killer did Boston, Philadelphia, and then this was set in Seattle this year. So they even did different cities for the previous kill sprees.
Yeah. So yeah, I really liked it.
And I did too. I thought one negative I had coming away from it was I didn't think the ending was great. I thought they kind of fumbled the ending a bit there. The last scene I kind of didn't love.
Which last scene? The one at the drive-in or the one in the church?
No, one of the drive-in was great. They should have stopped there. The church scene is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I guess if we're gonna do it, let's talk about the ending. Let's have a little. We'll have this be our spoiler section. So let's dive into that.
Right.
So turns out there were 3 killers,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna be honest with you. So I know I predicted before going into this that Mason Gooding was going to be the killer. Upon this movie starting, I immediately
knew it wasn't going to be him.
Yeah, I was like, this is not like I get what they're doing now, and it's not going to be him.
Right.
But the moment I meet the guy in the police station that turns out to be killer, I was positive it was him.
Yep.
From the moment you met him, I was like, oh, that's the guy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's got to be the guy. And then I was even thinking at a couple different parts, like, okay, Jordana Brewster, like when she's talking to the girl in the like entryway of the police station, there was something creepy about the way she was talking to her there and the way she was talking to Mason Gooding in the interrogation room. And in both times, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it might be her too.
Right. Yeah. For me, when the cop car pulled up and Devon, Sawa, and her get out of the car, I'm like, well, you're not going to have both of those in this movie and not have one of them be, a killer or something. It would have been great if they would have like played with that, but you saw and you're like, okay, one of them is more involved in this than just random ass cop 1 and 2,
Yeah. Yep.
And so as you're saying, 3 killers, the guy who pops up for one scene, and then Jordana, and then a guy who's not even basically not mentioned, just a third guy they met in a chat room, right?
Yeah, I did think that was very funny when they're looking at him and they're like, "Who the hell is that?"
Yeah, like, I have no idea. And that, my friend,
okay,
yeah, not to go too far, but like I feel like if the movie would have ended there, perfect movie. Like it would have been. I could have they could have just nailed that and be like, then just like I don't know, roll credits, and then they did the whole like Scream reveal in the church, and it was very Scream. You can't tell me it wasn't.
Yes, no, that part of it absolutely was where it turns out there's multiple killers and they're trying to frame Mason Gooding for the kills, and yeah, that was very Scream. Yeah. How everything turns out there.
They give her a gun with a loaded bullet. It's like, I'm pretty sure this was Scream 2, but I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I don't think the ending scene in the church was bad. I kind of felt a similar way though of like, oh, I think this was fine. Like, I don't think you needed another scene. But without that scene, this movie is very short.
It is.
This movie's, even with that scene, this movie's only an hour and a half.
96 minutes, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's very short, and without that scene, it would be even shorter. So I think they gotta pump up those numbers a little bit. So I see why they did it. But I think by that point, I was like, they're not gonna kill Mason Gooding at this point. He made it this far. They're not like.
No, we saw what he survived in the Scream movies. He's gonna be fine.
Right. And so one thing I did notice was, did you notice like sort of the parallel between the beginning scene and the ending scene, where she's like a million times yes about him
the very end scene. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so one could argue that like maybe the director of this has like he has like that opinion of not being into romance and not being into Valentine's Day or anything like that. But the end scene really does it mirrors sort of the beginning, but there is a happy ending at the end,
Right. Right.
And so I thought that was interesting that he went for it in the end of like, no, I'm going to make this this is like a full horror romantic comedy.
Right. And even like at the end there, Olivia Holt's character has a friend who is in the movie a bit. She's not a main star at all, but she's even doing like the photograph of the moment that the engagement happened, like the opening scene.
Yeah, so they bring it back sort of full circle to mirror the opening scene of like, see, everything did turn out well in the end.
Yeah. And did you?
So you did stick around for the mid credits scene?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was, right? Yeah, I didn't know about it, but like me and Holly were literally the only two people in the theater, and we just sat there talking about the movie, and it just came up.
Yeah, I was sitting there, and like 3 different dudes came in to clean the place, and they kind of like stopped and like wouldn't start cleaning because I was sitting there, and like I just looked up on my phone when the credits started up and was like, "Oh, is there a mid credit scene?" Because you know
Mm-hmm.
that's what you do sometimes.
You have to
And
nowadays.
it was like, yeah, and it was like, yes, there is, and I was like, oh, all right, then I'm gonna sit here. And like I felt like I was like looking over at them, like, hey, listen, guys,
I pay that money.
I'm not leaving. Like,
Just grab the armchair leg. That's funny. Did you see how they kind of set up that there could be a sequel to this?
how so?
They mentioned when they were doing the killer reveal that they met in an online chat room about the Hard Eyes killings. And
Oh, really?
I thought that could be a really easy way for them to set up like a sequel. Like, well, there's this chat room of people who are into this. It could be like a kind of like a cult thing.
Yeah, it could be. I would watch another one of these.
So I enjoyed it quite a bit. I didn't love the ending, as I said, but like as we talk about it, like as you said, rewatchability is a big thing for both of us, I believe, and I would watch this absolutely in a heartbeat.
As far as Valentine's Day horror movies go, this is right up there in the top. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think you could absolutely rewatch this on Valentine's Day many times to come. I
Right.
kind of hope they leave it as a one and done thing, though.
I would too, but I would like it like that. But I'm just saying that they put that in there probably for that reason.
Yeah, probably. All right. You got anything else for this one?
No, that's it.
All right. Me either. So let's move over to My Bloody Valentine 1981.
81.
Yeah, so this one is. I had never seen this, been out a long time, and it just escaped me all these
Mm-hmm.
years. I have seen the remake of it, interestingly enough. I own it on DVD with the 3D glasses and everything.
Nice.
And that was like a blind buy when it first came out because it's got Jensen Ackles in it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was into Supernatural at the time.
Sure.
And I think I just blind bought it because of that.
Yeah.
I didn't end up loving the remake, though. But
No, and I think
based on that.
it was 2009, right? Was it the same year as the Friday the 13th remake? Like there was a bunch of remakes at that period of time. I think I got kind of lost in the shuffle.
That sounds right. Yeah. So this one is about a decades-old folktale surrounding a deranged murderer killing those who celebrate Valentine's Day, who turns out to be true to legend when a group defies the killer's order and people start turning up dead. So basically, this town decides after, 20 years or
20
whatever,
years. Yeah.
that they're going to start celebrating Valentine's Day again. They're having a Valentine's Day dance. They're making a big old deal about it. And our serial killer has decided that he's not having that. So he comes in and starts killing people. We get hearts in boxes, a lot of hearts in boxes and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Some would say too many.
Yeah, maybe. So I looked at the cast for this, and nobody really stands out as anybody I've seen in anything. Have you?
Hi. Yes. So the main movie has that love triangle, and I should have wrote down, but I didn't write down the name of the girl in that love triangle. But
Is
she's
that
played
Lori Hallier?
Lori Hallier, yeah. And I recognized her from a movie I saw on a made-for-TV movie in 1996 called Night of the Twisters. That was
I've
on.
seen Night of the Twisters.
Yeah, she's the mom in that, and it has Devon Sawa in it. So I thought that was kind of a wraparound point.
Look at that. That's why we did this.
Yeah. The Devon Sawa connection cannot be stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, Night of the Twisters was not a good movie. It was like a straight to. It was the Family Channel. I think it's called Freeform now. And yeah, it wasn't good. But I remember her from that for some reason. It popped right in my head.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Night of the Twisters, taking it back. Yeah, so the director is George Mihalka, which I haven't. I looked at his IMDb page too, and I didn't recognize any of it. It seems like he did this, and then he did a lot of TV movies, TV shows. Nothing too much of note, unfortunately. Box office wise, this had a budget of $2.3 million, and it was also only released in the U.S. and made 5.6. So hey, doubled its budget.
That's a success.
Yep. Reviews wise, we got IMDb bringing this at a 6.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes has critics at 58% and audience at 52%. So people didn't love this. And I guess getting into our reviews, I didn't really love this either.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's me. I'm people. I
Yeah.
I remember watching it way back in the day and thinking that was fine. I kind of I thought I respected it for like because I thought 1981 that's gotta be like one of the older like slasher movies. And then you go back and you do a little bit of research and you're like, nah, it was like the last part of like a whole wave because like you had Black Christmas in '74, Halloween of course in '78, Friday the 13th and Prom Night in 1980, and then this thing comes on the coattails of all that, trying to take advantage of the obviously the serial killer holiday theme motif, whatever you want to say.
Yep.
And so that kind of like honestly like that kind of dropped it a little bit even more in my opinion because I thought it was like Halloween than this, what I mean? But it was definitely no. It's like fifth in line.
Yeah.
But yeah, so not to crap all over it because I know the director came out and said that he was heavily censored on the movie, and like a lot. Apparently, there's a director's cut out there that's better. He says I'm not gonna search that out, but but you can definitely tell like some scenes like when a kill's about to happen, they're just like nah, and then.
Yeah, I did notice that. I couldn't help but feel like yes, this movie's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, this was fine. By the end of it, I don't know that I even cared who the killer was,
No.
And then
we can spoil this one, right?
I don't say this very often, but I kind of feel like this would be like there's a lot of gas in the tank of this idea, right?
Right.
Of if somebody wanted to remake this, like really dig into it. So much of the movie takes place in a mine, but it doesn't feel claustrophobic at all.
No, it's like the big open parts is where they're running around it.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So I like I said, I don't say this often, but I think this, and I didn't love the remake. I said too. So
there's a good movie here. It's just they haven't got it yet.
Yeah, there's a good idea, and maybe they just need somebody. Give this to Fede Alvarez. See what he does with it.
Yeah, and I think the part that brings that to the forefront is like the design of the killer, the miner look with the pickaxe. That's great. That's iconic. The pickaxe as a killing weapon.
Yep.
Pretty unique, and that goes a long way, but that can't be the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and also like. He's like walking around town and whatnot in this movie, and like you just can't help but think like this guy's got a big costume on.
Yeah.
Like
no one notices this.
Our killer's just like this is a lot to put on and take off, right? Like,
yeah. I remember there was like one scene where like it was kind of like a low fog, and he's like walking around a corner, and he like looks back. I'm like, that looks stupid.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'd watch the director's cut of this, but I don't know that I'll watch this again. In all honesty,
right? It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah,
that's the way to put it.
It's not bad. It's not like unwatchable or anything like that. But like with seeing this as a 6.2 out of 10, I was like, yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
I might even go 5.5. Like,
yeah, I have a note here. I wrote down the love triangle, and then the next line under there I put I don't care. So at a certain point, I'm just like, I don't care about these two alpha males and this one girl who, like one of the main characters moves away, comes back, and when he moved away, his girl got with his best friend, and it's just like I'm supposed to care, I don't care. Yeah. Mainly because she has no development, she's just there.
No, it doesn't. That was the thing. Is like I wonder if they were trying to play it as like you trying to work out. They don't give a lot of backstory to everybody, because they want you to wonder who the killer is. But what that results in is you not really connecting with any character, right?
Right, and they established that this Harry
dude with the mustache.
Except for the big dude with the mustache. Cool. He's my favorite. Like I'd like to have a beer with that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they have the Harry Warden story, who's the killer from the previous Rampage 20 years before this movie takes place, and supposedly that's the guy who's back in town doing the killings. So it's not really even like you don't really have like the whodunit kind of thought in your mind, like who's the killer. You're supposed to be this guy until the last, not last minute. Well, yeah, kind of last minute reveal that it's one of the dudes from the love triangle. Spoilers, but it's so old.
Yeah, and the way they execute the reveal is just so sick. Like,
it's just this.
Like all of a sudden, this dude looks like an absolute psychopath, and he's got the pale skin and the weird look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like the weird flashback sequence, like in
right.
So many other movies, and it's even got like the ripples in the screen.
It did. I do love that. It gets points to the ripples.
I was just like, and then like he's like, "You'll never get to me. I will return." As he runs into the mine. Like,
yeah, he said him and Harry are gonna come back for both of them. It's like Harry. They established Harry's already dead, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do no setup for that either. Like, it's never mentioned that his dad was killed in the previous spree or that he saw
why
it.
would they not mention that?
Yeah, it's just kind of like,
no reason to hide that.
No, it's almost like they were gonna have Harry Warden be the killer, and then they're like, no, let's do this twist instead. And they probably shouldn't have done that. Maybe stick with the Harry Warden idea.
Yeah.
I respect it for what it was, but yeah, I think that as I said earlier, it kind of loses a bit. That it was made in a year. They rushed this thing out the door to get it as part of this wave of movies that came out, all similar holiday themed killers.
Yeah. What would you give this out of 10?
This one's gonna sit at a 5 for me, I think.
Yeah, I said 5.5, but I don't think it earns that 0.5. I think it is a 5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, the guy with the mustache, he's my favorite thing in the whole movie. And that's not good. That's not good when like an ancillary character is your favorite part of a movie.
What I think is funny, too, is, like, we grew up in a small town where there's, like, a mine close by.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we know a lot of people, like, that work in mines and everything. And, like, you see how everybody talks in that bar and, like, how, like, you just get the vibe that, like, we've seen many love triangles. And it's like, hey, I know this bar.
And it was a Canadian production, so, like, not that far away from where we grew up. And I did put a note down here. There's a scene, it's very Canadian. There's a scene where someone says sorry, but they say it with the Canadian sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Which, if you're not from this area, you probably have never really picked up on. But it's just kind of a funny little thing some people say.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's my Bloody Valentine. Maybe we'll do a thing for the remake sometime and check out what we think of that. Have you seen the remake?
Not in a long time. I know it's got Jamie King in it. Yeah.
Jamie King's in it?
Yeah, I think so. I might get her confused with another one, but I think it's Jamie King.
I don't recall there being a love triangle whatsoever in the remake, but so maybe they did away with that, or maybe I just don't remember. I
think there is. I think the problem is I don't remember who the other guy was. Like, I'm sure it's the same character names, but as you said, the guy from Supernatural's in it, and I don't know who the other guy was at all. Like, you can put a gun to my head right now, I couldn't describe him.
I'm glad that Jensen Ackles has had success because he tried to do a couple like horror movies like that early on there that like they just didn't land.
Right.
Like maybe he's just a TV guy. I don't know.
So he produce TV guys.
Yeah, it's okay to be just.
I'd be a TV guy if I was a famous actor. I'd be a TV guy. Let's be honest.
I probably would be too. I would be one of the most notable character actors out there.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see me, you're like, "Oh, I know that guy."
I'd be the flannel shirt guy. I feel like that'd be my go-to.
You'd be the mustache guy from this movie.
Yes, I'd be that guy. If I could grow a mustache like that, I'd be so happy. Mine just comes in thin and terrible.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it was a real mustache anyway, so we'll see.
I'll buy a fake one.
Yeah. All right, so I did put a little section here where I was trying to look into other good Valentine's Day horror movies. There's not a ton.
Not a ton.
It seems to be a bit of a neglected area.
Which is surprising.
One I found was the movie Valentine. Have you seen that?
That's what I was going to bring that up. That's the most notable one, probably.
I think it came out pretty close to My Bloody Valentine too, if I remember those like early to mid 2000s.
Right, and it has a decent cast too. It's not a great movie.
Is Denise Richards in it?
I forgot Denise Richards is in it. I said a great cast, and I remember Denise Richards is in it. No offense to Denise Richards. I'm sure she watches the podcast. But
She does. You know what Denise Richards is great in?
Starship Troopers.
Undercover Brother.
Oh, geez, that movie. That's a callback.
I love Undercover, brother.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
like low-key one of my favorite movies.
I know we've had this conversation before. That's why I know that.
Have we?
Yeah.
Very funny movie.
It's completely. I don't want to say it's forgotten, but it could do with a renaissance.
Yeah.
Some people find like an older movie from that time period, and then it just kind of shows up everywhere, like as a meme or something.
Yeah.
That movie could be rich for that.
Yeah. It's got a great cast, too. Got Neil
Mm.
Patrick Harris, Eddie Griffin.
Yeah.
Eddie Griffith? Griffin?
Griffin sounds right.
I think it's Griffin.
Yeah.
Andy Griffith?
Eddie Griffith. But yeah, going back to the Valentine movie. Yeah, dude, that movie was kind of all over the place. There was a bunch of red herrings in that movie that just didn't make any sense. It was like they were trying too hard to go with like this guy, and you knew it was David Boreanaz from like the first scene he was in.
Yeah, I don't remember loving Valentine.
It's very forgettable. The Cupid mask killer even kind of
Silly.
yeah.
Yeah. I saw a list here that I was looking at that said It Follows was on there. I don't remember anything with Valentine's Day and It Follows, right?
I don't either.
Yeah.
It's possible, but it doesn't ring a bell.
Warm Bodies was on the list too. I haven't even seen Warm Bodies, have you?
I like Warm Bodies quite a bit actually.
Anything Valentine's Day in there?
It's a romantic comedy horror movie, but I don't think it's Valentine's.
Okay. Gerald's Game?
That I know of, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen Gerald's Game either. We should do an episode on that because I hear it's very good. And that's Mike Flanagan.
Yeah. My mom watched it and said it's fantastic, so she's usually a pretty good judge on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, it's Mike Flanagan based off of Stephen King work, so I can't imagine it's bad. And it's got Carla Gugino.
I think that's right.
One of them.
Sounds right to me. I'd watch that, yeah. I've been meaning to watch it anyway, so to have a reason to do so would be good.
Let's do it. Maybe we can do just a Mike Flanagan episode.
Factor it into March sometime.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's on Prime or Shudder, one of the two.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. We'll find it. It might be on Netflix. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any other Valentine's Day horror movies?
No, I was going to bring up romantic comedies, and you brought up the two that I was going to bring up: Warm Bodies and oh shoot, sorry. I was going to bring up romantic comedy horror movies, and I was going to say Warm Bodies and Shaun of the Dead were like the two biggest of that subgenre that I can think of.
Shaun of the Dead shirt tonight,
Did you?
But I went with Weird Al instead.
Yeah, that's not Valentine's Day related, but it's definitely I like it. I wore one of my 13 flannels because I'm that guy.
You are the guy.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead has no Valentine's Day connection, but it's definitely rom-com horror. Which you think there'd be more. That's why this movie was so nice to see because it should work better. Like rom-com horror, there should be more of that. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
You should watch Warm Bodies though; it's pretty good.
Yeah, I probably will eventually. I like the
Nicholas
dude
Holt
that's in that. Yeah,
and I think
He's
Teresa
done a lot of good
Palmer's
stuff.
Teresa Palmer's the love interest.
Hmm.
It's got Dave Franco in it.
Oh,
I think Malkovich is the dad.
Malkovich.
Don't quote me
Have
on
you
that.
ever seen the movie Being John Malkovich?
Somehow no.
You got to see that movie.
I've heard that. It's on the list.
Yeah.
As I say that, and I just watch YouTube videos for my entire life.
Right. All right. Next on my list, I wanted to do a nonsense check-in here and just say that 1 week in, my nonsense theory for Scream 7 still holds water.
Nice.
So, hasn't been disproven yet.
I hope it works out.
I hope so too. Next up, I wanted to talk about the Super Bowl for a moment here. That's like the biggest thing that happened in the last week. That's what everybody was competing on airtime for. Mm-hmm. So you watched the Super Bowl?
I did not.
You didn't watch the Super Bowl?
I didn't
watch. Boycotted it because...
I didn't boycott it. I just was exhausted with the NFL. Like, maybe it's sour grapes because I'm a Bills fan.
Yeah.
It probably is a large part of that. I told myself I didn't want to watch it just because I didn't want to watch it. Like, I didn't want to waste another, like, couple hours of my life watching something I don't enjoy. If it's not a Bills game lately with the NFL, I haven't been watching it anyways, like this last couple of years. So, yeah, I didn't watch it. I watched my Bloody Valentine instead.
All right.
Sorry.
Well,
take the wind out of your sails there.
You certainly did. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs got absolutely annihilated.
Throttled.
Just completely manhandled. Patrick Mahomes got sacked like 4 times.
I did watch the highlights this morning, so I do
So
have
it's
some
just
base.
like him getting just like bulldozed over and over again.
Yeah, and that's again not to bring it back to my whole Bills fan thing, but that's what I wanted the Bills to do against him. Like just
Yeah.
bring the noise, and they didn't do it. And Philadelphia obviously has a way better defensive line than what Buffalo had, and they just took advantage. And it was watching the highlights again. I only watched the 15-minute highlights instead of the whole thing, but that's what it was. They just got in his face and made him make mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Philly has a great defense. I had their defense on my fantasy team, so
Nice.
worked out for me. Did you watch the halftime show?
No,
You know,
I'm killing you. I'm sorry.
I wanted to get your 2 cents on that because I was curious how you might feel about that. So it's Kendrick Lamar, and so I've heard some people say that no good music got released last year, and I just want to say that this last year for Kendrick Lamar was probably the biggest year of his career. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, and he released the best album last year.
He won a bunch
So
of
if you
Grammys,
like,
didn't he?
he did. And so I saw people hating on it online today about his halftime show. I'm just here to say that it's one of my favorite halftime shows. And for somebody that's a fan of his, it brings full circle so many of these things that have been, it paid off a lot of things. And he had Samuel L. Jackson in the show. He's in like an Uncle Sam outfit.
That's pretty great.
And he's narrating it sort of like his character from Django Unchained
Okay.
would, but he's playing like Uncle Sam, and he's kind of narrating it like with all the pieces that you expect are going to be talked about why people hated this, and like, oh, he's too gangster and he's doing this too much, and like, so like Samuel L. Jackson is saying these things to Kendrick Lamar in between songs, where he's like, no, you can't perform that song, and then like he did like a duet with SZA, and he did the song from Black Panther,
Right.
and when that finishes, Samuel L. Jackson is like, yeah, more of that. They're going to love that. And then he plays his Drake diss track.
The diss track. I heard about that, yeah.
And I loved it so much. So
that's a cool idea that they would do. Like they knowingly tongue in cheek what's the word here? They knew that it was going to have that reaction, so they called it out immediately.
Yeah,
I like that.
And so Kendrick Lamar is known for putting a ton of thought into everything that he does. So the imagery that they used during the whole halftime show was very powerful. And like they had one thing where he's walking through with his dancers, and you can tell that they made it to look like he's walking through a prison yard. And so it was a very good show. There was one scene in it where Serena Williams was doing a crip walk, and she got in a ton of trouble for doing that. So she grew up in Compton. She's from Michigan, but she grew up in Compton. And she also dated Drake. So she was doing this during Not Like Us, the diss track. And so it's got like a double meaning. So for one, to see her on stage doing a crip walk to Drake's diss track, because like a lot of people say like they haven't had a good relationship over the years because of just Drake being rotten to her and her husband. But the other piece of it is that she did that when she won at Wimbledon, like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And she got like torn apart in the media for it. And so it's kind of like a reestablishing that for herself, taking the power back.
Right.
So I was absolutely in love with this thing. I watched it again today. I was watching highlights on my phone all last night of it. And it's like one of my favorite halftime shows I've ever seen. So I don't know if you'll like it because, I know you don't listen to hip hop like that. But
I don't know.
It is worth watching to see all of the way he plays everything. And I mean, in all honesty, he makes some damn good music too. So, but
yeah, I'm not against it. I'm a rock guy. We know this. It's been established.
You know this.
Yeah.
You were a big fan of Tom Petty when they did it, right?
Mm-hmm. That was
a good show.
That was
a good show. Prince was a good show.
Prince was a good show.
Shows out there. I would say The Weeknd was really good too.
Yeah, I agree. The year that
Really intricate.
Bruce Springsteen crotch slid into America. That was a thing.
He what?
Bruce Springsteen did it, and like he slid on the stage and like just crotch into the camera.
That sounds like him, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, sorry to take the wind out of your sails there. It wasn't. It just was a decision. I'm like, I don't
No,
want to watch this, so I didn't.
my sails have plenty of wind in them still. I was able to still talk to myself about it, so that's okay.
I was here to listen.
All right, so let's jump into our news section.
Yes, sir.
First thing on my list is that Buffy the Vampire Slayer now has a sequel series in the works with Sarah Michelle Gellar returning in a limited capacity. And it's going to be directed by Chloe Zhao of Nomads and Eternals fame.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah Michelle Gellar is basically like, she's like, this has been brought up to me so many times over the years, and every time I say no. And when it was brought up to me this time, you know what? I have the quote right here, so I'll just read it for her.
Yeah, I mean it's a big time director to do a TV series.
Yeah. So she said, "So you might have heard some news this week, but I realize you haven't heard it from me. 3 years ago, I got a call from my dear friend and mentor, Gail Berman. She told me that she wanted me to sit down with Chloe Zhao to hear her take on a potential Buffy revival. I was blown away that Chloe even knew who I was, but as I've always done, I told Gail that I just didn't see a way for the show to exist again. We'd always been aligned on that, but this time I heard something different in her voice. I eventually agreed to go, mainly just to meet Chloe. And our 20-minute coffee quickly turned into a 4-hour adventure. We laughed, we cried, but mostly we both talked about how much this show means to us. While I didn't agree to anything at that meeting, I did shock myself by agreeing to continue the conversation. These conversations did in fact continue over the next few years, and eventually we added the incredible Nora and Lila Zuckerman to our little tribe, until ultimately one day we landed on an idea. I have always listened to the fans and heard your desire to revisit Buffy in her world, but it was not something I could do unless I was sure we would get it right. This has been a long process and it's not over yet. I promise you we will only make this show if we know we can do it right. And I will tell you that we are on the path there. I feel so lucky to be on this journey with these 4 unbelievably talented women, all of whom love Buffy as much as I do, and as much as you do. Thank you to all the fans who never stopped asking for this. This will be for you."
Very cool. That's exciting.
So it's set to be released on Hulu, and they're working on a pilot right now. So, I mean, that's huge. Really huge news.
That's great news, too. That's a franchise that I might try to revisit now just to see before the new stuff comes out. Because it's been years.
It has been a long time for me, too. And I was always a big fan of that show. I watched it when I was growing up. I watched Angel. I watched all of them.
I did not watch Angel.
I did. And what's interesting is in none of this, Joss Whedon's name's not come up at all. And, you know, a lot of people said that. A lot of people since in the last few years here have come out from that show and said that they wouldn't work with Joss Whedon again.
He's not great with people, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I
That's cool.
am excited about this, and Chloe Zhao being in charge of
it.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is huge. Did you like the OG movie way back in the day? The Christy Swanson? I like that movie too.
Yeah. With
Luke Perry.
David Arquette, and the guy that plays Pee Wee Herman.
Paul Rubens? Yeah, Paul Rubens.
Yeah. Donald Sutherland.
Mm-hmm.
Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer, that's right. Yeah, he's a big bad man.
Yeah, and Hilary Swank is one of the cheerleaders.
That's right, she is. Was she the first one KO'd?
I don't know if she ever is, to tell you the truth.
She might not be. No, she wasn't. I take it back. Isn't Ben Affleck in that too? Like his first, he's like a basketball boy.
Maybe Ben Affleck is one.
It's a cameo.
But I know Luke Perry's the main guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, I have seen that movie a bunch of times. I grew up watching that one, and I was so excited when the show came out. And so one of the things, the reason they can do this and still involve Sarah Michelle Gellar, but not have her be like sort of the focus of the series, is because there are two Slayers in the show. The whole show hinges on the idea of there's a Slayer until they die, and then a new person becomes the Slayer.
Right.
Well, Sarah Michelle Gellar dies at one point and then is revived. And so her heart stopped for a moment, and then a new person becomes the Slayer. So I think I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think the whole idea is like that you're trained for all these years, but then you get the Slayer power. And so Eliza Dushku was the new Slayer. And so I would assume they're probably going to just say that Eliza Dushku's character is dead. I don't know. I don't even recall if she dies in the show or not. But if they were going to do it, they would probably do it like that, right? And so you've got a new Slayer, and, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar jumps in to be sort of a mentor to this person, I'm betting. That's kind of where I'm imagining this goes. But, I mean, if they've really taken this long to work out all the kinks in the idea, then I'm betting it's got to be much more complex than that, right?
Right, but it's not a bad start, what you're thinking. I think that's a solid groundwork.
Yeah. Yeah, so I hope they bring back some of the other actors. It'll be interesting if they decide to bring David Boreanaz back, because he is a vampire in the show, and he's old now. So,
Big four.
I don't know. And, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the idea, so I wanted to take some time to talk about it.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't hear to that extent. I saw the post about Buffy spin-off series coming. I didn't know it was that involved and that much talent behind it, so that's exciting.
Yeah. So next on my list, I had that Jurassic World Rebirth trailer released. Give me your thoughts on this, Dan.
I was hoping the trailer would quell my my anxiety and my fears about this movie not being good. And I gotta be honest with you, it didn't show me anything that made me think it's gonna be any different than the Chris Pratt last two movies.
Yeah, I didn't watch the last two, so I don't know.
They're not good. The first Chris Pratt Jurassic World movie is fine. Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, maybe, those are not good movies, and I hate the fact they're not good movies. I want to like them, but they're bad. And it just, like, I know this movie's got Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, great. But it's just nothing about the trailer made me go, cool, or gave me like the sense of like wonder or excitement that I used to have for this franchise.
Looks like they've got the same people in charge of CGI this time around too.
Yeah, that's the same too. Like, it looks exactly like the other movies. And it's like, you guys could have made it look a little better. Like, we're so used to these designs, maybe that's why they don't change it. But
the crazy thing is that if you look at all those movies, the CGI in the first one from the 90s is somehow much better than the ones made now, and that blows my mind. And it's because it's a combination of animatronics and CGI.
Yeah.
So that but these are, it seems, relying solely on CGI.
Right.
And you can tell the difference when that's what you do.
You can only take the eye so much. It's better if there's something with weight there. Especially like a lot of scenes in the last one with like the baby raptor running around. It looks so floaty and bad. It just looked bad.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the trailer didn't do anything to make me more excited about it. I know when we did our year preview, I was like, I'm worried about this, and I'm still on worried about this level.
That's fair enough. I mean, in all honesty, I have no idea whether I'm going to go see this or not. We'll have to wait and see. I didn't go see. Like I said, I still haven't seen the last two. So.
Those movies made $1 billion. It's insane.
Yeah, I hear everybody tells me they're not good, so I don't know.
People saw them.
People saw them. Other people. All right. Next on my list, Drew Hancock, the director of Companion that we did our last episode on, is writing The Faculty remake script right now with Robert Rodriguez attached to produce.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
This I had not heard of. That's good news. That's exciting news.
That is exciting news. I love The Faculty. I watched it, I think, in October, and still loved it. It aged extremely well. It actually, it aged much better than I thought it would. And there's obviously a couple things in it that you're like, but...
We said Jordana Brewster's in that, right?
Jordana Brewster. She's the girl that is like sort of the love interest for Elijah Wood.
She's the unobtainable in the high school drama movies.
You say that, all I can think of is
Unobtainium from Avatar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say remake. I would really, really just love, and I know they probably don't want to do this because you got baggage and all that, but I would just really love if they didn't make a remake and just made a sequel.
Right.
You know? Because I want to see Josh Hartnett.
Yeah,
I
it's
want
like
to see where his character Zeke is today,
make him the school principal
Yeah.
time.
It's possible he was dating the teacher at the end of the movie.
There you go.
Famke Johnson there.
Yeah. She showed up in a lot of movies in the late 90s. I didn't really realize until later on in my life.
She was in a ton. She's in Goldeneye
Mm-hmm.
as Xenia Onatopp.
Yep. Very clever name.
Yep. I love that movie so much.
It's good.
Yeah. Yes, but this has a huge cast too, and I'm trying to think of a way they could do it as a legacy sequel,
Mm-hmm.
where they're involving these characters, and it just seems so unlikely that they would. But I'd still
But
love it.
also, like a prequel, like I guess I don't know. I don't know if I love the idea of a prequel for that. I think a sequel set in modern times would be an easier way to go about it. But I guess you said it, obviously they probably gone over that and just decided to go a prequel route.
They said remake. They
Remake,
didn't
sorry.
say-
I
yeah.
apologize. I meant the other thing.
Robert Patrick is awesome in that too. That opening scene where the teacher kills the other teacher
Mhm.
is so good. And I don't know, man. This movie, I'm a big fan of it. This was also written by Kevin Williamson
It was.
and
And-
directed by Robert Rodriguez. Like, what a combination
Right.
there.
Right. And good on Drew Hancock, because he kind of, like we talked about in the companion review, that was his baby, and he kind of like forced it to the finish line, and now he's getting
Yeah.
a chance to do something else in the horror genre that I think that's good for him. I'm glad he stuck to his guns.
Yeah, and if he can establish his own unique feel for this, like he did with Companion, it's got its own
Mhm.
aesthetic, and that it's established. If he can do the same thing with The Faculty, I'm really into the idea, because I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have to copy very much. It's just a cool idea, right?
Right. Right.
Where the aliens come and they start with the teachers.
Yep.
Go for the people with the power, and the teachers start to infiltrate all the students until you're down to a small ragtag group of survivors.
It's a vision of body snatchers for our generation when we were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, you can use it as an opportunity to make a lot of statements about society.
Oh, you really could.
And where we're at today. You can do a lot there. So, if he chooses to go that route, I think it's got some high potential. But I still really just I really hope that they go a little bit of the legacy sequel route, bring in an Elijah Wood or a Josh Hartnett.
That'd be great.
To help,
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but most characters survived that movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even bringing in Jon Stewart.
Yeah, most characters do survive it, interestingly enough. They don't immediately point. Yeah, so like a lot of the characters survive because like you see all of them in like that last scene.
It's like a wacky montage at the end of
Yeah,
people walking around with like,
hey, look,
he's got a band-aid on now. He's fine.
Yeah. I kind of don't think the principal survived it because
No,
she gets stabbed in the first scene and then her head gets blown off at the end there. But like her head is like walking like an alien, so I mean it could connect to her body and who knows? I don't know. But like I love that movie so much and I think I might watch it soon.
I'm a big fan of that too. It's a really good one.
Yeah. All right. You got anything for the physical media showcase?
I don't have a thing. What do you got?
I got one thing. Hold on 1 second. I got to go grab it.
All right, there he goes, folks. He's off to grab his physical media showcase for the week. My guess is something John Carpenter related. I'm going to guess a vinyl record. Seems like it's on brand. Maybe too obvious. We'll find out. See the shadow. He's back. Dylan Clicker record. Hello. He's back.
All right, physical media showcase. So I grabbed my old Once Upon a Time in Mexico DVD.
Fantastic.
Because I watched this over the weekend, and since we were talking about Robert Rodriguez here, I thought it would be a good little segue to talk about this. So Yeah, I watched this over the weekend, and I forgot how much damn fun this movie
It's a
is.
good
You've
time.
seen it, right?
Yeah, it's a good time. That's the best way to put that movie.
It's got the perfect balance of what he had going on with Desperado and where his career trajectory eventually went, right?
Right.
And I watched this with Sarah, and we got such a laugh out of this. Do you remember Willem Dafoe being in this movie?
No, I'll
He
be honest.
plays like a Mexican cartel leader.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it is so funny when they show him. And I burst out laughing the moment he comes on screen. I'm like, oh my God, they have Willem Dafoe playing a Mexican here. like he's super tanned and
Yeah.
like has like a big mustache. And,
I
like,
can't believe I forgot that. Yeah.
I don't know, it's just hilarious. But like this movie is oddly hilarious too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many funny scenes. Johnny Depp being in it is very funny. And I had such a fun time with it that I was like, I just want to talk about this a little bit.
Right.
You have Enrique Iglesias as one of the other
Mariachis.
mariachis.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Trejo's back playing Danny Trejo still, but a different character than he was in Desperado.
Right. There's a good scene with him too, where Antonio Banderas is up in the hotel room, and they're like, he's watching you, and he looks out the window, and he's just pointing at him.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. No, he had his gun pointing at him.
Gun pointing at him. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this was such a blast, and I couldn't help but think the whole time I was watching this, because I showed Sarah Desperado
Mm-hmm.
last year, and she loved Desperado. And I mean, her opinion was, she was like, I was like, so what'd you think? She's like, it's not as good as Desperado,
Oh, sure.
but it's very good still. She was like,
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. You know, he named it Once Upon a Time in Mexico. It lines up with that sort of large scale idea. You know, Once
Mm-hmm.
Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know, all of those. It actually, you know, parts of it even remind me of like the epicness of like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You know, and so you can tell Robert Rodriguez had like high
Goals.
hopes for the scale of this movie, you know, and he was doing his thing there, just like he does with his other movies, where like the character that Johnny Depp is at the beginning and the character that he is at the end are like two completely different characters, you know, and so he's just really great
Yeah.
at designing characters too, you know, and giving them like their own unique flair. So this is a ton of fun. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this. After I watched this, I was like, I think I want to buy that Mariachi trilogy on.
I was gonna say it's part of a trilogy. Have you ever seen the first one?
I've never seen.
I haven't seen the first one. I haven't seen
But
either.
I've seen Desperado,
Right.
and the reason I haven't watched it is mostly because everybody says that Desperado is basically just a remake of El Mariachi, and Mariachi was made on a very minimal budget, and it doesn't have the same actors, and all these things like that. You know, I do need to watch it. I do, and I will eventually. But that's the reason why I haven't, because
Same reason for me.
yeah. But maybe we do an episode on that one time. Watch the whole trilogy and talk about them a little bit more in depth.
Not opposed to that.
But yeah, I watched this. This is my DVD, and I have my 4K player upscales it, so it still looked very good. This is once again Dimension Films. So yeah, whole lot of fun here. Whole lot of fun. Ava Mendes, Mickey Rourke, Cheech Marin.
What a cast.
You know, and then your main stars here, Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas. I would love so much if Robert Rodriguez brought these characters back and did another one of these. But
That'd be
if you're
fun.
gonna do it, maybe you got to do a trilogy again, right?
Yeah. As you said, that movie was such a good time, and you really didn't need to see Desperados to enjoy that one.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
I'd be down for a fourth.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas was doing a lot of movies like this back then too. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
had like Assassins and
was gonna bring that up yet.
Desperado and The Mask of Zorro. Man, The Mask of Zorro is so good.
Is there a sequel to that?
There is, I think it's called The Legend of Zorro.
Don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, but the first one is very good.
It is. Yeah.
You got, once again, you've got a lot of white people playing Mexicans.
It's true.
But you've got the original Zorro being Anthony Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
You got the love interest being Catherine Zeta-Jones. But so
That's when she really blew up. Like that movie put her on the map, I think.
yeah. So those things aside,
Those things
it's
aside,
still a very wonderful movie, and Antonio Banderas is a great Zorro, and I would love them to do another Zorro.
And around the same time, one of my favorite movies, The 13th Warrior.
Yep. In that one, different issue, Antonio Banderas is playing an Arab.
Right.
If you recall.
Right. Hey, it was the late '90s, man. They're figuring it out still.
I didn't remember that when I went in and showed Sarah that.
Ooh, yeah.
She just looks at me. She's like, and I was like, I forgot about that detail. I'm sorry.
I would have done the same thing. Yeah.
It's funny, the things you just don't remember.
Right. Like, oh, that's probably not okay, but my brain at the time was like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. They're like, oh, he's vaguely brown. Let's just cast him. Like, no,
not okay.
Yeah, still a good movie.
Still a good movie. Yeah.
I mean, that movie is known for being like a fun movie, but an extremely flawed movie. You know, it's a movie you enjoy despite its flaws, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Like, you just have to, I think that's a check your brain at the door movie.
I was going to say, turn your brain off and just watch it.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else?
No, dude. I apologize for not having any physical media. I could have tried to find something, but...
That's okay. I got dinner to be had anyways. Save ourselves 10 minutes.
There we go.
All right. So, thank you for watching, everybody. And please, please, please take the time to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give us a rating, anything you can. We really, really, really appreciate it.
We do.
And I wanted to close out this episode today with one of my favorite movie quotes. So, as a wise man once said, my favorite thing about the movie is, like, it feels like a movie. Like, go to the theater, film movie. Kind of the reason why you go to watch something on the big screen. Wisely spoken by Harry Styles.
The poet of our time.
Yes. So thank you, everybody, and good night.